In this video, we will talk about the history of the Philippines, so make sure to watch the full video. The history of the Philippines is a rich and complex narrative shaped by early civilizations, foreign colonization, wars, and revolutions. From pre-colonial societies to Spanish and American rule, to its eventual independence, the Philippines' journey reflects its resilience, struggles for freedom, and evolving national identity over centuries. 1. Early civilizations. The pre-colonial Philippines. Before the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century, the Philippines was already a thriving region with its own distinct cultures, communities, and trading systems. Various indigenous groups, such as the Tagalogs, Visayans, and Ilocanos, populated the islands, each with its own form of governance. Societies were organized around small, independent communities called barangays, led by chieftains known as datus. These pre-colonial societies had established systems of trade with neighboring countries, including China, India, and the Malay archipelago. Early Filipinos were skilled artisans, traders, and seafarers, and their societies were deeply spiritual, practicing animism and ancestor worship. 2. Spanish colonization. 300 years of Spanish rule. Spanish colonization of the Philippines began in 1521 with the arrival of Ferdinand Magellan, although permanent settlement did not occur until 1565 when Miguel López de Legazpi established the first Spanish colony in Cebu. The Spanish quickly implemented widespread changes, converting much of the population to Christianity, and restructuring Filipino society under colonial rule. Spanish missionaries played a significant role in converting the locals, and Catholicism remains a dominant influence in Philippine culture to this day. The Spaniards introduced the encomienda system, where land was divided among Spanish settlers, and Filipino labor was exploited for agriculture and resource extraction. Under Spanish rule, the Philippines became part of the global trade network through the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade, linking Asia and the Americas. 3. The rise of Filipino nationalism. The 19th century marked the rise of Filipino nationalism, as a new educated class, known as the Ilustrados, began to question Spanish authority and push for reforms. The arrival of liberal ideas from Europe, combined with the growing influence of the Filipino middle class, led to the emergence of a national consciousness. Key figures like José Rizal, Andrés Bonifacio, and Emilio Aguinaldo began to advocate for greater autonomy and freedom from Spanish rule. Rizal, in particular, played a critical role through his writings, especially his novels Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, which exposed the abuses of the Spanish clergy and government. The propaganda movement sought reforms such as equal rights for Filipinos and representation in the Spanish Cortes. 4. The Philippine Revolution and the First Republic. The Philippine Revolution began in 1896, sparked by years of Filipino discontent and inspired by the nationalist sentiments of the time. The Secret Revolutionary Society, Katipunan, founded by Andrés Bonifacio, led the charge for independence through armed rebellion. As the revolution spread, Emilio Aguinaldo emerged as a key military leader, eventually taking over the movement after Bonifacio's death. The revolution reached a crucial turning point in 1898 when Spain was defeated in the Spanish-American War. With the fall of Manila, Aguinaldo declared Philippine independence on June 12, 1898, and established the First Philippine Republic, the first democratic government in Asia. However, the fledgling republic faced immediate challenges as the United States, which had acquired the Philippines from Spain under the Treaty of Paris, refused to recognize Philippine sovereignty. 5. American colonization. A new era of foreign rule. Following the defeat of Spain, the Philippines fell under American rule, beginning a new chapter in its history. The Philippine-American War, 1899 to 1902, erupted as Filipinos, under Aguinaldo, resisted the United States' efforts to establish control. The war was brutal, with heavy casualties on both sides, and led to widespread destruction across the islands. Despite Filipino resistance, the United States solidified its hold, and the Philippines was declared an American colony. Under American rule, significant changes occurred, including the introduction of public education, the English language, and democratic institutions. The Americans promoted economic development and modernization, particularly in infrastructure, but Filipino aspirations for true independence were stifled. 6. World War II. The Japanese occupation. The Philippines faced its darkest period during World War II when Japanese forces invaded and occupied the islands from 1941 to 1945. The Japanese occupation brought immense suffering to the Filipino people, as they endured harsh military rule, forced labor, and widespread atrocities. Major battles, such as the Battle of Bataan and the Battle of Corregidor, saw Filipino and American forces resisting the Japanese advance, but they eventually fell. The occupation sparked a strong resistance movement, with Filipino guerrillas fighting alongside American forces to disrupt Japanese control. The liberation of the Philippines began in 1944 with General Douglas MacArthur's famous return to the islands, culminating in the Battle of Manila in 1945, which left much of the capital in ruins. 7. The road to independence. The birth of the Philippine Republic after World War II, the Philippines moved swiftly toward independence. The devastation of the war had left the country economically shattered, but the desire for sovereignty remained strong. On July 4, 1946, the United States officially recognized Philippine independence, and the Republic of the Philippines was born. Manuel Roxas became the first president of the newly independent nation. However, the post-independence period was fraught with challenges, including economic recovery, political instability, and social unrest. The country faced the task of rebuilding from the destruction of the war while asserting its place in the international community. 8. The Marcos era, martial law and dictatorship. The presidency of Ferdinand Marcos, 1965 to 1986, is one of the most controversial periods in Philippine history. Initially elected as a reformist, Marcos declared martial law in 1972, citing the need to suppress communist insurgency and restore order. Under martial law, Marcos wielded absolute power, silencing political opponents, controlling the media, and committing widespread human rights abuses. The period saw significant infrastructure projects and economic growth, but it was also marked by rampant corruption and cronyism. Marcos and his family amassed vast wealth at the expense of the Filipino people. 9. People Power Revolution. Overthrowing the Marcos regime. The People Power Revolution of 1986 is one of the most iconic moments in Philippine history, marking the peaceful overthrow of Ferdinand Marcos after more than 2 decades of authoritarian rule. Widespread frustration over Marcos' dictatorship, economic mismanagement, and human rights abuses culminated in massive protests in Manila. Sparked by the assassination of opposition leader Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. in 1983, the Filipino people rallied behind Aquino's widow, Corazon Aquino, who became the symbol of democratic resistance. Millions of Filipinos participated in the non-violent demonstrations along Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, EDSA, demanding the resignation of Marcos and the restoration of democracy. 10. Modern Philippines, democracy and challenges in the 21st century. Since the People Power Revolution, the Philippines has experienced periods of both political stability and turmoil as it navigates its way through the challenges of the 21st century. The restoration of democracy brought new freedoms, but also new struggles, including persistent issues of corruption, poverty, political dynasties, and economic inequality. The country has seen several political transitions, from Corazon Aquino's presidency to the controversial administration of Rodrigo Duterte. Duterte's war on drugs and his confrontational approach to governance have raised concerns about human rights, while his administration has been marked by economic growth and infrastructure development. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. Also, subscribe to our channel before you go.